I have to be.
All right, we are available in the picture. You can see Vicky in the picture.
Do you need tiny little like?
I can see, I'm like tiny, but I can, I think you guys can see me.
I think you're bigger. Come on. She's a real.
She should be the like the main.
Yeah, no
picture.
one cares about our opinions. We haven't done them yet.
Yeah.
There you go. Sweet, okay. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Wanted to provide an opportunity for each of us to share our experiences with the fellowship process. And for those of you who are interested in the fellowship process or kind of just exploring what paths you want to take toward grad, want to give you the opportunity to kind of get some on the ground insights from people who have gone through the experience. And again, these are just our paths, and it's not the only path. There are multiple paths to take, but I feel like the more information that you have in this journey, the better you can make informed decisions on next steps for yourself. And so I know many of you have your internships lined up, and maybe we'll be thinking how this internship will inform, what will come after graduation. So hopefully with the panelists that we have here, you can kind of get a glimpse of some of the varied interests of why we pursue the fellowship, but also the different fellowship programs. Each of our programs are different as far as requirements for application, program structure, some of the benefits they offer. And so you'll get to hear that. And I wanna first thank Vicky for being on the call. Vicky is an alum of the HCM program here, graduated 2022, and is now a program manager at Cleveland Clinic. So shout out to you, Vicky. Thanks again for being here today. But yeah, let's start with introductions. Actually, Vicky, do you want to start first and introduce yourself? And then
Sure.
questions about why you did the fellowships and things like that. But yeah, provide an introduction.
Yeah, happy to. Nice to see you all. Thank you for inviting me. So sad that I can't be there in person. I miss New Haven every day. But so nice to be with you virtually. My name is Vicky Clark. As Kamali said, I am a proud alum of the class of 2022 from the healthcare management program. I did my undergrad at Vassar College. I was a science, technology, and society major there, if any of you are familiar with Vassar. And then came straight through after that to the healthcare management program. During my time in HCM, I was pretty set on doing hospital administration. I had always had this fascination with being in hospital leadership. I'm sure many of you at some point had an aspiration to be pre-med. That was a very similar thought in my mind when I was growing up and even all the way through college. But then I had some fantastic mentors that helped guide me and made me realize that I didn't have to go through medical school if I wanted to one day be the CEO of a hospital system, which was great. So that's how I found my way into the healthcare management program. I did my administrative internship at the Cleveland Clinic. I was in the Emergency Services Institute, which is now a part of our hospital-based medicine institute, as it's now referred to. I did some projects in patient experience, quality improvement. I got to work all across the Northeast Ohio region in our different emergency departments, which tied back to experiences that I had as an EMT before I started in the hospital administration path. And then during my time as an intern, I had the privilege of actually applying to the administrative fellowship program during the summer as an early decision process, and was fortunate to be selected as an administrative fellow for the upcoming year before I actually started my second year of graduate school, which was really exciting and took some pressure off of starting my second year of grad school. And so I've been at the clinic ever since. I really enjoyed my fellowship year, got to explore all different realms of the enterprise, whether it be in Ohio and our Florida markets, got to do some work internationally with London, helping organize our annual case competition, and more recently with our Nevada market, I'm currently the program manager for our partnership with the Women's Alzheimer's Movement at Cleveland Clinic, which is primarily based in Nevada, but actually as of this week, we formally announced our expansion into Ohio, with the expansion of the Women's Alzheimer's Movement Prevention Center. And so I am the lead administrator for that program, and for that prevention center. I oversee the day-to-day operations of that program, whether it be the philanthropy side of things, our relationships with our legal department, with government relations, marketing, communications, all the different business aspects of it. And I work very closely with our chief strategic advisor and chief visionary, Maria Schreiber, and her team, to make sure that her vision is brought to life. So that's all of that work I got connected to through my fellowship program. So that's enough about me, but happy to answer questions as we go through. But again, thanks for letting me be a part of the panel.
Thanks, Vicky. Jimmy, you want to start?
Yeah, hi everyone. I feel like everyone here knows me by this point, second year ACM. I guess as a background, I'll tell you a bit about my experiences. I interned at Mass General last summer. Planning to apply to the fellowships. I'm someone who always makes a 5-year plan. I plan too far out to a full. But I had thought forever that I was going to do fellowship at Mass General. That was always the plan. And funny enough, this summer I actually turned down the offer for the final round interview at Mass General because I fell in love with a company called SCA Health. That's where I'm going to be. So happy to talk about that journey, my experience along the way. But yeah.
Hi. Also, I feel like you guys all know me, but I will give a quick intro. So I'm Elise, I'm a second year HCM student. Last summer I was at Cleveland Clinic where I was able to connect with this lovely human. But before that, I had a little bit of a different path, I'd say, than the folks here, and that I had a couple of years work experience before I came into the program. I was supposed to be part of the class of 2023, but I deferred my HCM place for a year. So that meant that I had about 3 years of full-time work experience before joining the program. And so with me, it was always a question of whether I felt like the fellowship was worth it or whether I wanted to go down the health admin side or whether that would be just, for really early career folks, earlier than me at least. So I think that was the main decision process that I've been dealing with over the past year. Eventually decided to apply just for the Brigham Fellowship because they require you to have at least 2 years of work experience before you enter. And thankfully, luckily, I got that fellowship, so I'm very, very excited about that. But I do think, if you're not 100% set on the fellowship, there are definitely different paths to follow and definitely different approaches to take to get into healthcare administration if that's where you want to be. So yeah, happy to talk more about that. But thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah. Funny, and I'll just say real quick to what Elise said. I feel like for everyone, the fellowship path is a roller coaster journey of being fully in and then second thoughts and then getting stressed out over the application process. So hopefully we can talk to you in a very real way and just kind of be honest about our experience.
Goal of this session is true transparency, so no question is off limits. I'm happy to share.
With the caveat that it's being recorded.
Even that. And also to say, it's just surreal hearing Jimmy and Elise talk about their journeys, because I remember all of us in the trenches together, calling each other over the summer, like, hey, I'm thinking about this, and my mind changed. So really had this riveting conversation. I'm thinking, so the process, it's winding, and to come out of it, being so sure of this is a path I want to pursue, and this opportunity sits right with me. And so, at least for me, I had some changes of heart along my process too. My early career experience has been mostly provider side. So I wanted to stay that course. It was always the patients that got me up every day. And that's what drove me. And I wanted to do hospital administration work. And we'll talk about later what the benefits of a fellowship are. But I heard from mentors who were leaders in hospitals tell me that you should do a fellowship. Like, this is how I got to the place I've been able to climb, and the different exposure and each program is different. So that sparked the curiosity, like, let's do some research. Let me find a program that best fits me. And so we can talk about more about it, but ultimately decided to pursue a fellowship at Northwestern Medicine, and tell you more about how that became to be. But that's how it started, just talking to folks and, hey, you should do a fellowship. And next thing you know, I'm over here researching fellowship, but we got to the same place. Next question, for all of you who don't know what a fellowship is, what is an administrative fellowship and what are the benefits? I kick it off to you, Nikki, because you've actually seen start to end what a fellowship experience is, and you have your own unique insights on what it offers. So tell us about the administrative fellowship structure at Cleveland, and how it benefited you.
Yeah, absolutely. So an administrative fellowship is anywhere from a year to 18 months to a 2-year long program. They can either be project-based or rotation-based programs at a healthcare system, where you either rotate or you complete projects at that system and get a better sense of how that healthcare system takes what you've learned in the classroom and applies it to real life settings. So specific to the Cleveland Clinic, ours is a 1-year project-based fellowship. We spend the first week or two is really just heavy orientation into what the clinic is, what you're sort of expected to know, how we sort of do things. And then the first 2-3 months really is just meeting and greeting with different executives all across the system. These are both in person and virtually. In person with folks that are in Ohio, and you'll have the opportunity to travel to all of our different sites across Ohio to meet with those folks in person, and then also virtually for any of the executives that are in Florida, that are international, or that are in Nevada. From there, once you get to meet all those different leaders, you will then get a list of projects, and it's quite literally a list of projects from all the different areas from those leaders that you've met, and you'll get to rank those projects. We also have different competencies in our fellowship program, anywhere from clinical operations to strategy to finance, just to make sure that you are really, again, taking what you learned in the classroom, and that we're teaching you something, and that you're getting exposure to all these different areas of hospital administration and healthcare leadership, and that you're finding what you're really interested in. You'll rank those projects. You'll then be assigned projects based both on what you're interested in, but then also making sure that you're meeting those competencies. And then from there, you'll really get going and start working on those projects. Once you finish a project, you can onboard to more projects. As projects can become available during the fellowship year, you can onboard to as many as you want. We like to say that we have a high support, high challenge environment. So there will be times where you feel that you are pushed and you will feel stressed. There's definitely times where I felt stressed and that I thought that I was at my breaking point, but that is by design and that is normal. Because we want to see you grow. You're not going to grow if you're at this comfortable stage of just, I have 5 projects and I feel good and I'm finishing early and I can go home early and all of that. We want to make sure that you are growing and learning how to have that sort of both work-life balance, but then also being able to multitask and prioritize and all of those things. What else in terms of projects in our fellowship? We also like to have our fellows get involved in the healthcare management programs. So all of our fellows are involved not just in projects for the healthcare system, but they're also heavily involved in our healthcare management programs. So fellowship recruitment, our graduate administrative internship, our undergraduate administrative internship, our case competition, all of those are really fellow run. Which is really exciting, and it's a nice way for the fellows to give back to the next generation of healthcare leaders. And the next and most important thing I think to the program is that I mentioned that high challenge, high support piece. I really want to touch on the support aspect. we make sure that our fellows have a broad, like a broad range of mentors that they can tap into. So we connect them with recent alumni mentors, with executive alumni mentors, and by alumni I mean folks that have graduated from the fellowship program, executive mentors, which are folks that are executives in the healthcare system, and then also the program directors of the fellowship program. So you have numerous people to go to reach out to if you feel like you're struggling with something, if you need advice with something. There's also informal mentors that you can go to. If they're not assigned to you, you can go to anyone that's connected to the fellowship program. And then we also have the cohort model. That's another thing about fellowship programs that I should have mentioned at the very beginning. Some fellowship programs, you have 1 to 2 fellows, and then other fellowship programs, you have like 8 or 9 fellows. Cleveland Clinic has about 8 fellows every single year. And then our program, we have 2 fellows that are in Florida and 6 that are in Ohio. So cohort models in both. But again, like you have your fellows to rely on, which I know this year's fellowship cohort, I was just texting them before for advice on on this panel because they're going through it right now. And they said that the biggest thing is that they wanted me to emphasize that like they really rely on each other for support through everything. And so yeah, the cohort model is a really big piece, but that's just an overview of our fellowship program and fellowships in general.
Thanks, Vicky. Vicky covered a range of what fellowship structures look like. I'll add and say, you know, coming in, Jimmy and I, remember we had talks about this, like, we think a fellowship ideally is supposed to jumpstart you into leadership roles within a hospital or in your case, ambulatory surgery center settings. And so it's supposed to be a difference in comparison of me just graduating, going straight into the industry in an entry level role. And so looking at some of the outcomes out of these programs, I stalk LinkedIn all the time, like this person graduated here, where did they end up, what position? And you kind of have to take those titles with a grain of salt because each title doesn't translate across institutions the same. But you can also, if they have descriptions, look at the scope of work, but they don't have any direct reports or how much of the budget that they're managing. But those are the things you want to look out for. Each fellowship, no 2 fellowship experiences are the same. And so they have different outcomes of how far they would jumpstart you into the organization. The other thing is some programs are structured to have interim management roles. And that was the key point for me to look for, where I, in my 2-year experience, that second year could be in an interim management role, managing people, and having some oversight of some sort of team. And so that was something I look for as like exposure. I can actually kind of get a flavor sampling of what I don't want to do and what I do want to do, but also have that capacity of being in a management role before I actually transition into one. And I thought those were good experiences with those programs. The other one piece too is like each fellowship, depending on the institution, one may be at a hospital, but also there are like system-wide fellowships where you not only get to be at the flagship hospital, but the other entities, the community hospitals. And so you can get exposure of what that looks like at an academic medical center, but also the community hospitals. And so managed in different ways and different scopes of what you need to consider in those 2 organizations. But that's another thing. And I'll let you and just
one thing I want to add while you guys talk about, Kamali said no 2 programs are the same. Maybe I'm jumping the gun too far right now, getting into advice, but you really need to do your research on what each program is. Like when the 2 big words you'll hear all the time is project versus rotation based. If you don't know which one your program is, there's like a very low chance you'll get it. I've heard a lot of things from people who are recruiting who say, this person put down project based, this person put down rotation based, and we're the other one. And sometimes those words don't even make sense to me because I'm rotation based, but I'm doing projects along the way, you know, so it's easy to confuse them. But you need to know the language of the fellowship you're applying to, especially for your personal statement and especially for your interviews, because that's the stuff they take notice of, and everything has to be personalized, seriously.
on that note, I've definitely heard about people not getting spots when I've inquired because they didn't do a good enough job of customizing their, cover letter or personal statement. It matters, spend the extra 10-15 minutes,
Yeah.
on customizing 1 or 2 paragraphs in that personal statement so that they know that you're applying very intentionally to that program and to that health system for, these unique reasons.
There's buzzwords you guys should know. I mean, we say them just kind of offhand now, but like things like rotation versus project, cohort versus, I don't know, regional 1 to 2, like you should know these words that the program directors use because they put so much time
Write
into
up the
making these
website,
fellowship
too.
programs.
Yeah.
Look at their websites.
Yeah.
Use the same link, and we'll talk about this in the best
Yeah.
practices, but the more detailed, the better you are as an obvious candidate to them.
But yeah, I think you guys did a good job covering what a fellowship is. I mean, yeah, it's a leadership development program.
Yeah.
I've always viewed it as an investment, it's an investment personally, in some ways, I think you're kind of foregoing a real position, a real structured position, and sometimes pay, depending on what you want to do, for the expectation of a very developed network experiences you're not going to get anywhere else, and really close intimacy with leadership, as well as hopefully an accelerated career path. So.
I'm gonna add one more thing before I shut up for a long time, but I was just gonna say, don't think that, by getting a fellowship, your skills and your experience are gonna limit you to working in a health system. I get asked questions from recruiters all the time. Can I have a list of people, and they're not in health systems? Can I have a list of people who have done fellowships in top health systems that you've placed in the last couple of years, so I can basically call them and pitch them, a job. So it happens all the time.
I was just talking to Steven last night. He did Geisinger Fellowship, went straight into consulting after at a
Yeah.
position above where he would have been before.
Yeah.
We have another alum, I want to say his name's John. He went to work for
Jonathan
Optum.
Rhodes. Yeah, he's now the vice
Yeah.
president or vice president.
Into venture capital, crazy
In a venture
career path.
capital firm, yeah.
But did his fellowship, I forget where, went straight to
Cleveland
Optum.
Clinic.
In
Yeah.
Cleveland Clinic, went straight to Optum, now he's in venture capital. So yeah, definitely not a limiting position by any means.
You've got a lot of options.
Anything else? Yeah.
And we touched about the network that a fellowship provides, but it's really high level visibility. When do you ever get to be in a room with the C-suite looking at decision making at the highest levels of governance? That's an opportunity for you to be a sponge and to take notes and be ready to ask the right questions to impress them. So I will say, at least for Northwestern and some of the other programs, like the first year, you can be seen as like an internal consultant for the C-suite. And so just take those opportunities as times for you to show up and be prepared to do some good work. Next question, if there aren't any more benefits, we can talk about what led you to pursue the administrative fellowship in comparison to maybe the other career paths you were navigating at the time. Vicky, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I can start. So for me, what I liked about the idea of a fellowship was I really wanted to stay. This is gonna sound weird. I liked being in a hospital environment. I have done several different experiences in healthcare related fields or healthcare related kind of places. I've been in health departments. I did an internship at a morgue. I did ambulance work. I've kind of been all over the place. But I think the coolest place that I had been was in the hospitals. And so I knew that I wanted to be in a hospital. And I also knew that I wanted to see projects all the way through. And I wanted to see projects all the way through. I wanted to stay with the system. I wanted to keep those connections building. I didn't necessarily want to like work on a project and then leave and then go to another healthcare system and then work on a project and things like that. I also just for me, like the work-life balance of doing a fellowship and being in the hospital industry was just more appealing than the work-life balance of consulting. That was just that was my personal preference. But I have friends that are in consulting and they love that and they love the traveling and that is for them and that was the right fit for them. So I don't think you can go wrong either way. It's just really depends on what you want to do and what you're interested in. So that's kind of that's what led me to do the fellowship. The other thing of like why I did a fellowship versus doing a full-time hospital-based role is because I didn't have work experience in a hospital-based setting after undergrad. Like I said, I'd gone straight through from undergrad to grad school. I had also graduated undergrad during the pandemic, which was a fun time. So I wanted to do a fellowship just to kind of gain that experience, gain the skills that I needed to land a really solid role. And so that's why I did the fellowship and I felt like I was able to do that and use that year to just kind of grow and develop and understand what it was like to be a working adult and not be a student anymore and just kind of learn all of those transitions.
Yeah,
Before you go also, just if you don't mind, I
Yeah.
think it'd be really important for you to say a piece about having work experience before the fellowship, because I
I
think,
was just gonna ask, does anybody here, like, are folks directly, who's not directly from undergrad?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so yeah.
because I know that was a big part of your.
Yeah, so I think, you know, after undergrad, I graduated a degree in psychology. I thought I wanted to pursue the doctorate in clinical psych and be a full-time psychologist. And so I worked for a year and a half for Massachusetts General Hospital in their department of psychiatry. And basically my entire role there was we were running a clinical trial on veterans with severe PTSD. And so I would sit in their sessions kind of every day as part of this clinical trial to take notes and whatnot. And I really quickly learned after that experience that that was not for me. I think I wasn't, able to leave work at work. And I also, you know, even though really respected the folks who could make change on an individual level, realized that I got way more excited about like the process level and how we could change things to get more folks into the clinic or how we could improve our metrics overall. So I worked there for a little bit and then I transitioned to work in the Department of Radiology and Quality Improvement. And I also then fell in love with that. Love data analytics, love quality and safety. And that's kind of when I started to realize that I am one of those people who just loves to work in anything. Like I just kept getting really excited about every new project that I was given. So the reason why I overall decided to take the fellowship was because I want to find the area that I want to excel in, that I really want to devote my career to, because I think I've been involved in little tidbits so far and I've loved them. But the fellowship gives you a really unique opportunity to sample and try out so many different projects, work with so many different leaders with different leadership styles, and really get a high level view of the organization rather than going in at a whatever role in whatever department that you decide to join. I think in addition, my background was not very heavily business based. As I said, I did psych as an undergrad, and then from then through, I've been working more in sort of data research, analytics. And I think the fellowship, again, really gives you that opportunity to be quite selective in what you want to get involved in, but also you kind of just have to do whatever projects come up. So if they need you in strategy, you go work on a project in strategy. If they need you in financial modeling and business planning, you're going to go help them out with that. And I really thought that was a very unique part of the fellowship opportunity for me. So the goal is to do the fellowship for the year, figure out what I really want to tucker down in for the next decade or so, and then probably change a million times, because that's, I think, the way my career is going to go, which is, you know, yeah, I think Jimmy and I are very much the opposite in that, is that he has a 5-year plan and I have kind of like a rough 5-month plan. But yeah, both approaches are very valuable.
And you, I mean, not to share your story too much, but you had a lot of hesitation along the way
Yeah.
because of your experience, because of your age, not to call you old.
No, seriously.
No, and I think there's a lot of
Take
people
that.
who see these fellowships as something that are meant for people straight out of undergrad, they're
Mhm.
meant to build experience. I
Yeah.
remember you mentioning this a lot to me, is you don't know if this is
Yeah.
something for you
I mean, and
because
it
you
was
have
also
the
like, to
experience.
be transparent, it was also the salary thing. I think you have to be very, very confident in the step after the fellowship to consider taking a role that's not as high pay as what you think that you deserve at this point in your career. And I really felt that, well, the Brigham in specific, I really felt that they pushed people to get involved in projects that were way beyond what they had experienced to do. And I think that they really value fellows as a whole and not just as somebody that they can mold, but rather they value and recognize your experiences up until this point and how you can help them achieve success. But even aside from the Brigham, I was really seriously considering applying to the Cleveland Fellowship because I really witnessed firsthand how much it seriously jumpstarts your career. More so than what I would think I would have achieved as like a program manager out of this program and then beyond. So I think it's definitely a decision that you have to make. And I think I would probably encourage folks to apply for fellowships as well as other jobs if they think that there's an opportunity for them to gain a better role aside from the fellowship. But I think there is this sort of perception that it is very much for folks with no work experience, and I don't think that's necessarily true. But again, do your research on each of the individual fellowships and what candidates get selected as well as where they go after the program.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear about, our process is unique because we had a few options, that we were applying to at the time. We could talk about this whole fit thing and actually want to bring it to you. You know, for the longest time, Jimmy had been MG admin fellowship and now he's out of the hospital.
We used to make jokes, yeah. We were always MGH and John Hopkins, and I remember first year, we'd be like plotting, scheming in our room together, walking around like, I can't wait. When we get the Johns Hopkins and Mass General offers, we're popping Dom Perignon. And now look at us, he didn't even apply there, I turned down the final round there,
Oh, yeah,
it's amazing how the journey goes. But yeah, you want me to share?
Yeah, and share about the fit, what made SCA the right fit for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I had an interesting journey to get there. I started off, my roots are at Mass General. My first ever mentor in healthcare was there. The reason I'm interested in fellowships in the first place was because of him. We were on a call, we used to have monthly calls, and he sat me down, he's like, Jimmy, this is the golden ticket. He's like, if you get this, you have no idea how fast you're gonna get up there. And he's a director over there, he does well, but it seemed just very genuine, you know, and that to me, when you're someone young deciding what you wanna do, you know, that's loud, like that's something that's hard to turn down. So for a while, you know, that was it, I got locked in, did all my research, talked to a lot of people. And forever, that was the plan. I did the internship there. I'm like, I'm gonna keep planting the seeds, get ready for the fellowship. So yeah, then we got to the summer that I'm at Mass General for the internship. This was last summer. Just kind of the stars aligned. We had, I'll say first off, they do a terrific job with their internship, Mass General. I really think it's like one of the best. And they give you insane visibility. What they do is almost probably twice a week, you're meeting with the leader from their hospital. So basically everyone VP level up, you meet with one-on-one at some point, which is amazing. But the recurring theme I heard over and over while I'm there is this transition away from the hospital. They just talked more and more about the hub and spoke model and how MGB is starting to shape where the hospital is going to become the center for the most complex high acuity patients, and everyone else, we kind of need to get out, you know, just because that's how value-based care is shaping the market. So, you know, I hear that, starts to get the wheels turning. I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. Let me learn more about these other markets. At the same time, I made really good friends with a couple MHA program, not alum, but in the middle of it at Cornell, who are also interns with me. And Cornell kind of has a pipeline with this company called SCA Health, which is in the ambulatory specialty care space, which is just, they manage outpatient centers. They're a subsidiary of Optum. They used to manage only surgical centers. Now they do all outpatient specialty care. But I mean, that's like directly aligned, right? This is MGB's vision, is we're moving people out of the hospital to these outpatient sites. what SDA does is they manage these outpatient sites, and a lot of what they do is partner with the big AMCs or independent physicians and make these resources available, more accessible. The research behind them, now I'm just getting too much into my niche, but anyways, they really excite me. It's like a whole new area of healthcare I hadn't even thought about before that I got really excited about. So it's just like, hearing these things from leadership at Mass General, hearing, getting introduced to this company and just really falling in love with their company culture, the fellowship program itself, they call it a residency, not a fellowship. In the path I saw for myself there, I had to make a really hard decision. I remember calling Kamali like 50 times over the summer, not sure what I wanted to do with myself. But really, I think the biggest thing that went over for me was the culture and the potential outcomes. I just felt so at home there. It was such a great culture fit. And yeah, I made the decision. Who knows if it's the right one? I still, every time I step into a hospital, I think to myself, like, this is so inspiring. Did I make the wrong decision? And I don't think I did. I'm really happy about it, but yeah, that was kind of the journey there. Our program is a 1-year residency. We're a cohort model. There's like 8 or 9 of us. I'm based in the Northeast region. Everyone's regionally distributed, but you meet up a few times a year. You do projects, rotate around, pretty standard besides that.
Can you give them an idea of what the year 1 or year 2 after the residency is done, what position and scope of practice should we have?
Yeah, so it's different depending on what you want to do, but typically the route for our company is you do the 1-year residency and then you become, they call you the CEO of an outpatient center. You're a facility director, but you're in charge of everything that isn't the clinical. So you basically run a center on your own, which is really exciting for me. I got kind of a entrepreneurial spirit in me from taking all these S1 classes. So I'm thinking about starting my own venture a few years out, and I thought what a crazy unique experience that would be to be able to manage my own center that early, learn from that, take that with me. So
I think for me, I had a few factors in mind that kind of narrowed down my search. One, I was looking at outcomes. I wanted a program that was gonna live up to an administrative fellowship. Like I told you, like gonna jumpstart me in leadership. I didn't want a program where I saw someone coming out of a fellowship and I could have gotten the same role, just being entry level straight in. So that narrowed it down to, I don't know, I could probably count on my hands. It's I think for us, especially what I was looking for, I also wanted an academic medical center. I wanted to be a part of that tripartite mission, the clinical practice, the education, and research, all these domains of me being able to explore what that has to offer, but also the scope of my impact on being able to influence the next generation of providers, but also the medical innovation piece and the care delivery piece. I think that for me, I wanted an AMC where they were leaders doing it at the best. And so automatically, like I said, okay, what's gonna help me kind of start the research journey? I'll take top 10, 20 from like US News World Report. But also I was hearing from my mentors, like these are good hospitals you should apply to. I know good folks over there. So those were all in the mix. And then from there, that big pool of maybe like 30 or so, narrowed it down by region. I didn't want to be West Coast. And I wanted to stick, at the Northeast, and some in the Midwest. But also it went down to program structure. I wanted a 2-year program. I also looked at programs that offered an interim management role, talked about that. And then salary was a big piece. I forget the statistic, but there's only a few amount of fellowships that offer salaries, I don't know, 75 or above. It's a small percentage. And so what I was looking for, I wanted at least a 75K salary. And so you have to understand, like, based on your experiences and your worth, what you want coming in. And just to be fully transparent, like administrative fellowships across the board aren't the most, and at least touch on this, well-paid postgraduate opportunities. And so obviously the ones who put up more coin can be more competitive. And so you just have to factor that in. But ultimately, and Jimmy mentioned this, like it was Johns Hopkins for the longest time. And I think I had maybe 6 on my list at one point. And what really helped narrow it down from there, and I implore you all to do this, but get on LinkedIn and just, can I get an informational interview with you? Like, can I have 30 minutes of your time? I see your career experiences in the specific institution. I would love to get on a call to understand your journey and how you got to this place. Claire and Howell, definitely helpful connecting you to alums and alums who have been at these institutions that you may be interested in. But it's nothing better to kind of get a pulse on the ground of what it is like to be at that institution, kind of live vicariously through that person. They can tell you the ins and outs. Also meet up with some of the program directors of the program. Obviously, they're going to be selling it to you. Some may not, but you kind of have to kind of weed the BS too. But yeah, talking to folks. I think you know, the best way you can kind of learn about those experiences is through their stories. And so that narrowed it down for me. It was Johns Hopkins, it was and Penn Medicine. And Penn Medicine had an interim manager role, Johns Hopkins, rotational structure, really good outcomes. Well, they were better outcomes than some of the other programs I were looking at. And I had some good mentors over there that said, hey, like, this is a place for you, this is a great fit. And part of it is the fit, the values piece. I wasn't just looking for a program that was just gonna be a global paragon of medical innovation, but also gonna be addressing the unmet primary care demands that we have, you know, at home. And so even coming out of my experience over the summer at Mayo, Mayo is a fine place to be. It's like the Fabergé egg on the hill. And you know, I realized quickly just being in the organization that, you know, Mayo has a consistent business model, tertiary quaternary care, highly specialized. And there's a saying that, you know, once you get into the door at Mayo, it's like paradise, but you got to get through the door. And so, you know, Mayo largely doesn't accept, you know, out-of-state Medicaid for their EDs. They only accept or they don't accept any trauma or psych or OB patients, and you can make decisions on what that will look like as far as those patient populations carrying lower reimbursed insurance. So that also, you know, Mayo's not some rural critical access hospital. It's a choice for them. And so not every health system is supposed to be the equity safety net hospital. And so that's how the fragmented environment is. You know, Mayo sticks in its own business model, and that's fine. But for me, I wanted an institution and what I thought to be like Hopkins that was, you know, pushing the mission on both ends. And with Penn Medicine, ultimately, I got a call actually, and I told Jimmy this is like, it was so devastating. I was in the middle of my internship over the summer, and they said the Penn Medicine Fellowship was going to be discontinued for that year. And so that's another thing you have to be cognizant of is timing of when to apply to an institution. Some of them go through changes in leadership, and some of those leaderships are over the actual program. And so when you have long-standing programs and now it's uprooted by a new person coming in, you kind of have to be careful, speak to people for sure. And I talked to some of the recent Penn grads from the program, like, yeah, Penn is not a good time to be, you know, be in an institution. So I would implore you just to talk to folks. Yeah.
And when you send an informational email or a message, keep it brief and to the point and be kind. Like, you'd be amazed at even Howie and I get these really long emails from students, and I'm like,
I'm already tired.
it's too much. Yeah, I think that's the nicest thing you can do for someone who's busy. Just be brief, to the point.
Yeah.
Ask for what you need and be kind.
And I like asking for 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 15 minutes.
It depends on the individual, like if you're middle management, I'm giving 130.
You can give you 30.
Yeah.
You got hours.
Yes, yes, no.
But yeah, so we talked about some of the research process and if you wanna touch, oh, go
I
ahead.
was gonna ask you guys for, because I guess these guys may not, you won't be around, you know, when the time comes, but can you talk a little bit more about the specifics of your interview experience and any tips?
I had a kind of specific question about that, just like going up against MHA candidates, like how you positioned yourself as a
Yeah.
non-MHA applicant, and like what that looks like.
I both answer that. I talked a lot about that to you. I think not being MHA is like your biggest strength as an applicant, seriously. Like, I think that makes you such a better applicant all around. I'm not just saying that because I'm in the program, but like, I don't know. I feel like an MHA is an MHA. I feel like our program borderline is an MHA in that we learn the same exact things, except you also have this public health component, which teaches you so much about population health outcomes and equity. And if you can really zone in on that on your interview, I think that's a differentiator for a lot of people. I know when I applied to Kaiser, also made it to their final round, everything that they said was about, it sounded like I was in Mark's class, you know? Like, you hear, I know it feels like sometimes in these classes, you hear the same thing over and over when it comes to some of the, I don't know, the ideas that you're taught or some of the projects that you have to complete, but like, I was kind of regurgitating a lot of what I learned in these classes, cause everything they asked me was about population level health, and they gave me scenarios of, I don't know, building a new center in a rural community and what considerations do you need? It's like, this is all we do, and the MHA doesn't do that. They do to some extent, but nowhere near as population focused. So I'd really lean into it. A lot of the I was asked in almost every interview too, why you chose Yale, why you chose the MPH. I mean, it's different for you. You should all know your reason because you came here, but
I think you definitely wanna highlight
into
the
that.
management training that you get in a business school environment, like that is
yeah,
key.
that too.
How many MHAs do you know provide that level of, you know,
Most are very
teaching?
solid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's my answer to that.
I
We can go into more broad, Claire's question about.
Yeah, I
Any
was,
tips?
we talked in this is, that systems thinking training that you get from the MPH, and obviously the equity lens. And we talked about the why Yale, we'll talk about the interview process, but there are certain questions that you should just have down, not robotic, but it's like, it's organic and it's you, and you can sell it like you're selling somebody $1 million, you know? That's just not hard to sell, but it's the why you're interested in administrative fellowship. Why did you apply to our institution? Why did you pursue health administration? Those programs should be always those questions should be well rehearsed. And you should just be ready to spit that out. whenever you-
And different, and genuinely different for
Yeah,
each place.
yeah,
Seriously.
Yeah, and that should reflect what you put on the paper application to what comes out your mouth in the interview. Again, specificity is key. Anything like else you wanna add? We could talk more about the.
I'll add, like, I think, you know, what you said about the institution and knowing your why and just your passion shining through is so important. And I think the sense I got, or the sense I get, is that some people go in a little bit robotic and it's clear that they've applied to 10 different programs, and I can, because I only applied to one, I think it was very clear when I was in my interview, that I was really just so genuinely passionate. I think what I've been hearing from folks who are involved in the fellowship process is that when you get to these interviews, when you get to the final stages, like on paper, you are all fantastic candidates. You're all well able to achieve the job. They know that, you know that. And then the deciding factor is like if they would want to sit next to you all day, every day in an office. Like, and I think it's that like familiarity, it's that personality, and just confidence and passion and where you came from and where you intend to go that would really win them over in an interview.
you wanna give them memorable details that they can take to advocate for you later when they have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Tell a story, and
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll add is like, I'm huge on networking, but network till you're dead, like,
Yeah,
you
we should
should,
not work.
it's like,
Real.
there's always kind of the same people who are in charge of interviews. Usually it's past fellows who are the first round. Usually then it's the program directors and a panel of people who are predetermined. Maybe they change one or two for the final round. But for me, it was like, you better know every single person who you're talking to before you talk to them. Cause you may get only a 30-minute, hour-long interview. You can do a lot with that time, but even an extra 15, 30 minutes with them before will do so much more for you coming into that than anything you say during that time with them. So that was my approach. Everyone I spoke to, I knew before, I'd spoken to before. I think there's a lot of power in that. And you get that by talking to past fellows and asking who they spoke to, talking to the program director, see who you interview with. They'll tell you,
Oh
they'll tell you
we have a
exactly.
group chat and everything. Oh, I met with this, but.
Yeah.
Vicky, I wanna bring it to you and you tell us about your interview experiences, and you've been on the other end of probably interviewing candidate or, getting that process set up, so please give us some insight.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I'm just thinking, like with interviewing fellows, so I've been on both sides of it. I've been on like the actual like interviewing, like part of like the interview day, and then I've also been a part of the just like going as an alumni fellow, and just like being there for like the casual part of it and just like seeing how they interact. So in terms of the interviewing, something that the administrative fellows will look out for, like what Elise was saying, is personality and how you interact with the other candidates, how you interact with the folks that are interviewing you. I'm gonna share a horror story that I know none of you will do, but I'm sharing it just so that way if you ever think about doing it, don't do it. We had a candidate for this current year's fellowship class, and he was essentially like sizing up the competition is how I'm going to phrase it. Like pretty openly to my co-fellows, and it was just wildly inappropriate. And you think that people would like not like would know like not to do this, and they do. Was saying like some pretty outrageous things in their interviews with like the fellows. So we'll do like these coffee chats, and they're a bit more casual in nature, but like they're still meant to be professional. Um and I just remember like he told us the story of like we asked like, oh, like, do you have someone that you look up to? And the right answer was like, oh, someone in healthcare, like someone that helped get you to like where you were, or something like that. Then it was just like someone not appropriate to say that you look up to. So just like be aware of what you're saying to like the fellows, because that will get back. It was crazy. It was a very wild experience. It is still talked about to this day, is what I will say. But in terms of also just like interviewing, like what Elise was saying too, like everything that we need to know about you once you are on site for interviews is on paper. We have your resume, we have your transcripts, we have everything. We really want to see like who you are as a person. Do we want to work with you every single day? All of that. It's all about your personality, and are you the right fit for the organization, and is the organization the right fit for you? In terms of like why I chose Cleveland Clinic, I'm from New York. I grew up in New York. I like Jimmy was saying about like how you'd seen yourself going to Mass General. Same. I always saw myself at Mass General. I thought I wanted to do the Mass Gen internship, the Mass Gen fellowship. Like, I don't know why that was the gold standard for me for like healthcare organizations. But then I had gotten the Cleveland internship, and I was like, oh, Midwest. We'll see. I've never been to Ohio before, and here I am, 2 years later living in this state. And I love it here. But it's all about like the right fit and things like that, and like the right culture. So use your interviews too as a way to get to know the organization and if it's the right fit for you. That's kind of my parting advice. but yeah, make sure that if you think that you can be casual with the fellows, be professional because you are still interviewing with them. That's my friendly, transparent advice to you all.
We ate up this time so fast. I'd rather just have you guys ask questions with the rest of it if that's cool with you.
Please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
So many more to be into.
I mean, he's got a PowerPoint up here, so we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
queue more, but I'd rather you guys ask what you would find helpful.
Anything about the application process in itself, I mean, you can ask more about the specific interview process, happy to share what that looks like, final round.
Yeah.
In comparison to.
Any,
I would just say for those of you who did like an administrative internship, like, did you come across similar questions, interview questions when it came to the fellowship? Like, are there similar things that they're looking for?
yeah, I think the first ones were all the same, the ones you said, it's like always. Why your school, why healthcare administration, why our place, why the fellowship? You know, Kamali has a list of like 80 interview questions or something ridiculous that everyone from the past few years has heard and just noted down. So he can send that around to all you guys, that's really helpful. Vicky, you have any crazy questions you got? Most
Oh,
anything that threw you?
Kamali, I think I have that list too. I feel like I may have like put that in a folder and shared that around years ago.
Yeah.
I definitely got asked if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be question. I got asked that for a fellowship interview. Oh, Joey Chan asked me that question. He's an HCM alum, 2015. So yeah, a fellow HCMer asked me that question. I'll never forgive him for that one. It threw me off a little bit, but I answered it.
But I mean, it mostly behavioral, nothing you should expect, like
Case.
out of crazy left field.
Case question?
When I was with Kaiser, they did casing, not real casing, like scenario based
Yeah.
casing. That's one of the only. I've heard of it.
Cleveland does casing too. Cleveland did a case, but they like you get the deck and everything for it. They like give you the stuff and you have time to look for it. It's pretty straightforward.
Did Brigham do a case?
Yes, again, more of a situational case. It was like, give you like 5 minutes to think about it. You are tasked with leading the rollout of a COVID-19 vaccination clinic. Yeah, that was like the extent of, and they would give you time, and I think as long as you just are calm and collect yourself, there's no way that you wouldn't get that fully right.
How would you recommend like practicing for those questions?
For like the kind of case based
Yeah,
ones.
like the situation.
I would say the more you can pull from your experiences, the better.
Yeah.
So there were like certain questions, we would pull it, I remember Jim and I would just go on walks, like, what would you do, like, if your radiologist wants a new MRI machine, how would you evaluate that expansion? But like, there was things like, tell me a time that you've led a project, or hey, we have this project, or we're opening up the center. You can speak to, actually, I managed a team of such and such at the Haven Free Clinic, and put together a Gantt chart in an Excel sheet to look at the project deliverable in the time. So just talk about things from your personal experience, because like they rather hear that you've actually done it. And if you don't have the experience, you could say like, well, I don't have experience with that. This is how I would approach the problem and do it methodically, step by step. And when you're delivering these answers, it's important to practice the art of packaging so people can
Style
hear.
method.
Yeah.
Style.
Really. And so I think that's the best way to approach it, from your own experiences.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just we'll send around that list of questions to you all, but really just look online, there's questions online. If you prepare and really take the time, like you shouldn't get anything that's so out there that puts you, out of the game.
And even, I'm happy to, I'm sure, at least Jimmy and Vicky, like if you all wanna just like get on a call or some personal time, happy to propose some questions to you and kind of workshop the answers and see how, delivery can be improved.
I never did mock interviews, but I know that's really helpful for some people, so I'm happy to.
Kelly Shea is really
Yeah.
awesome at
Yeah.
it. Practice with her. She's great. Yeah. And a lot of these things are like, you know, you can use your experience and apply it to lots of different questions. Some questions are trick questions, like tell me about a challenge, blah, 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 and you're supposed to, you know, kind of show your strengths using the STAR method. And a lot of these things you can kind of fit to lots of different types of questions. So she helps a lot. I put Kelly out there a lot because she's great and I think she gets people results. So, yeah.
I will also add to with this list of questions. I know we didn't talk about this, but like how to craft a personal statement. A personal statement, it's one of the things that will help you get through the door.
Get people to read it, get
Yes,
feedback.
Send it to us, send it to, I had Kelly and Felicia look over mine, send it to as many people as you can until it starts to just not become yours anymore, then maybe too many.
It's blurred out,
But
like,
yeah,
Don't use ChatGPT. You can use it for like an outline or help you like get some structure, but do not get it to write yours because I can guarantee everyone's probably doing that to some degree.
How different was your personal statement from like your personal statement to apply to Yale?
to apply to Yale is like very different.
very different.
Yeah, my internship to fellowship was pretty related, but Yale to internship and fellowship, I think.
I didn't even know what I was talking about, like, yo. It's like stuff I didn't know, value based. Yeah, just buzzwords, yeah, how did you let me in, Claire? I don't know.
I remember reading it, it was great.
No, I mean, my personal statement at least, I feel like most people do this, you talk loosely about your interest in broader healthcare administration and fellowships, the journey. Like, I think the first half of mine didn't change, right? It's generally me, so you don't change anything about yourself. But the second half was pretty tailored to the institution I was applying to. So that's where the work came in.
I'll also I'm happy to share my own statement,
Yeah, same with me.
and resume, so I can put together a folder and if, you know, you all are, you know, amenable to that and
Yeah.
send that out, but I know we're at time, and Vicky, I know you're a working professional. I don't wanna hold you over too long, but I wanna, you know, thank you. If you have any parting words for the group, before you head out.
I think my biggest advice also, no worries, I don't have stuff until, believe it or not, today's actually a pretty empty day for me. My biggest advice, I would say, be yourself. I think I say that to everyone, but that's your biggest asset is to be yourself. You know, you have all of your credentials going for you. You're at, I think, the best program in the world for your education. You are doing great internships. You're going to be applying to great fellowships, and it's all just about like selling yourself, and who you are and why you deserve to be there. So just continue to be yourself. Sell your why you want to be doing a fellowship in the first place. I'm gonna put, or Kamali, can you send everyone my email afterwards and just let them know that I'm, you know, available to chat. Yeah, I'm happy to chat like via email, via Zoom, if anyone wants to connect specifically about either Cleveland Clinic or just the fellowship process in general. But best of luck, everyone. You will all land at phenomenal places. And I'm excited to see where you all will go.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Vicky.
you.
Thank you, Claire, for the food.
Yeah.
Another piece of advice, just really quickly, when you're requesting letters from Howie, give him like 4 weeks notice. Because you wouldn't believe how many requests he gets from other people, and yeah, and I'm also very happy to help out, and I know Howie has a lot of presence, and he also spends a lot of time writing the letters, and I get to see them, because you guys don't. They're really beautiful and they're really detailed, so, you know, just be respectful of that and all will be well.
Yeah.
Which you guys will know, because it's a standard timeline, so.
Yeah, with that, it comes around very quick.
Yeah.
It literally hits you in the face in September and you're like, whoa, I gotta start applying, so, yeah.
Before we depart, yeah, that's a good point. I would say start, the earlier the better. Give yourself the maximum amount of preparation time. I think Jimmy and I, we started in like, I don't know, late May or early June. Just like wanting, just solidifying our why, doing our good due diligence on the research of the institution. And also like giving your recommenders enough time. I think for, if you're applying for NAFCAS, it's 3 to 4 letters of recommendation they require for non-NAFCAS applicant. If NAFCAS, for any of you who don't know, is the central application system. It's like SOFIS, which you apply to get into school here. But there are some institutions who have bought into NAFCAS to have their application on this platform. They have certain timelines as far as when the application ends and when they release and certain rules. So do your research on that as well. Then for other institutions like that are non-NAFCAS, like Northwestern was only 2 letters. Yeah. and
Cleveland's not
Cleveland-
on NAFCAS.
yeah,
But then
Cleveland too.
also whoever's submitting your recommendation has to do it separately, so just, there's a lot of logistics.
I will, usually if I email you guys about, I will say if it's NAFCAS or if you need to be really wary of the timeline, like if it's early. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it seems like a lot more health systems now are non-NAFCAS.
Every year.
Like they're moving out, like, so the timeline seems to move up a lot each year. It's
Because-
getting early. They're
These
trying to
institutions
snag
are
the talent.
realizing that they're bound by the NAFCAS deadline.
Yeah.
You can see it every year now, they're moving their application timelines up. Some of them are as early as like September, the first week of September, even in August now, capturing the cream of the crop of talent, so.
You've got a lot of emails from me over the summer and I do apologize in advance. You can ignore it if you want. It's just random. It's just like deadlines, like this is coming up here.
Alright, thanks, Vicky.
Thanks, Vicky.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, it's never on the camera.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, you can.
we can. You guys have any